Welcome to Virgo season, everybody. It's my motherfucking season. It's where your girl shines, she thrives, and I am here this month to help you as your own internet-friendly guide towards traversing the internal landscape that Virgo encourages us to interface with, learning to deal with our inner hermit and our hermit phases of life without getting way too crazy man on top of the mountain, okay? Which is definitely something that Virgo energy has a tendency to lean towards, and this I think is absolutely a result of the more hyper focus on mental energy that comes through during a Mercury-ruled time like Virgo season. Regardless of how you experience this time of year, it's definitely going to put an emphasis on your belief systems. The way you think, the way you process information, the way you learn, the way you absorb that information and use it, the way you talk to yourself. Your internal dialogue definitely needs to be evaluated, and I think we have the energy to be more and more aware of how it functions. And if we take that opportunity to hone into what we become aware of, I think we can really see more clear ways on how to manage ourselves in a more holistic way. Just something very interesting about the Virgin archetype. I very much get this, it's combination like High Priestess and Queen energy. And it's funny because, Virgo's typical card, traditional card is the Hermit. But for me, the Hermit is a more physical expression of High Priestess energy. So whereas, those first few cards in the major arcana are really these, grand kind of abstract concepts. The Magician is very much about, all potential and all our creative ability. And the High Priestess represents like literally our ability to interface with and know anything through our connection, our internal connection to the universe. The Hermit is basically a marriage of that masculine, it's a more physical, densified representation of the High Priestess. But the Hermit and the High Priestess are kind of like a marriage of that intuitive understanding and that conscious wisdom to take yourself out of other people's influences for a time to really discover what your own true wisdom looks like. So to me, Virgo season is very much about this, it's a kind of spiritual marriage between our inner High Priestess and the outer expression of the wisdom of our experience in our lives. So, there's a lot of evaluating things, but there's also a deep need to feel through things and make sure that we are interfacing with, that inner dimension. The Hermit is not just about being alone. It's about going within and synthesizing both sides of who you are internally so that you can shine your light appropriately, outwardly in relationships, in society, in just all aspects of external life, right? And Queen energy, there's that whole aspect because Virgo's analytical nature is so good at systems, organizing, efficiency, and all of that. And since we just got out of Leo season, where we were really encouraged to claim our full truth, claim our creative voice, what we desire, how we desire to live, and really start getting confident in that. Now with Virgo season here, we need to take that confidence as well as the childlike sense of joy and play and apply that to a more a filtration system of how does this work in my life? How can I integrate more of that, in my work, in my relationships, in my, intellectual pursuits, in my free time, in my fun and relaxation time. Virgo is ready to take all the aspects that we have acknowledged up until this point make us who we are, all the ways we want to adjust our values and our behavior and all of that. And it takes it in honor of who we know that we are, or at least to the point of what we know that we are, that we've kind of maybe interfaced a little more deeply with during Leo season. And we can really, really analyze that and find functional ways for it to become actionable in our lives, so that we're no longer just, thinking like my life should be the way that I want it to be, right? A lot of people's next thing is like, how do I do that? This is the time to figure out how to do that. This is the time to spend some space and energy on your internal experience as you work through the ideas of how can I structure my life to be in more honor of who I am, how I work, what feels good to me, how can I make things more playful? How can I also make things more efficient? How can I be more wise in my dealings, in my word usage, in my relationships, all of those things and more. We're being empowered to kind of learn from, ask the questions of, and kind of gain some deeper insight too during this Virgo season. So while Virgo season is very much about getting to work and figuring some shit out and making the plan and being realistic and doing all of this in a kind of methodical way, recognize that when we go about it holistically, instead of just leaning into these linear functions, then we really are combining masculine and feminine energy, that high priestess and the hermit, and getting those to function in unison is basically the thing. That's the required action that lights the hermit's lantern, because you see it's a 6-pointed star. That's the merger of masculine and feminine to create this light of consciousness. And this is what lights our individual path. It is not until you recognize you have to spend time internally, not just sifting over things and asking yourself good questions, but also being still, waiting, being open to receive. That is the thing I think a lot of us struggle with. And it's, I think it might be something that stems or causes what we now consider toxic femininity. And I think that has to do with like not being patient enough to wait for the receiving process to unfold. We get very impatient and then bitter and resentful for how much time things take a lot of the time. And I think that's where we haven't really given enough honor to the process of what the high priestess teaches us to do, which is you sit in stillness, you pour over the old texts, the information that isn't plain as day. It's more subconscious in nature. It's more poetic in nature. And it's something that has to go in and be seeded and then over time sprouts out of you. That is a very high vibration, divine mother, divine feminine energy to be able to plant and sow and sit and wait and tend and nurture, even when you don't see any results, so that you get that, the thing you're really seeking over time. If we're not willing to sit in open receptive mode, if we are in give me desperation, why haven't I been given what I deserve yet? That is expectation, that is entitlement, and that is I am experiencing lack and now I'm mad about it. What we need to be in the state of is understanding I do not know and I desire to have insight. It's my true will to truly interface with the thing that will lead me to understanding myself or this issue or this area of life more deeply. And it's only when we can marry, the willingness to direct our energy internally, that's masculine introverted energy, right? And be willing to sit in stillness, in silence, in a state of emptiness so that we can receive. That is like that high vibration, introverted or internal feminine energy. And those we need to get on the same playing field in order for our Virgo season to be really impactful and powerful, and, you know, to not feel like a buzzkill, because a lot of times, you know, that excess in mental energy can weigh you down. And